what would you tell a city leader in whatever sphere of influence they may find themselves? What would you tell them with regards to the correlations between trust and enabling better city futures? And secondly, how do they bring trust back into the four city worlds?
I think the starting point for a city leader is to get to a situation where urban dwellers live in the city because they have chosen to and not because they have to. And the have to is because they have to work. And the way the city leader can do that is to make the city more attractive on a myriad of dimensions, people-centered dimensions related to well-being, so that it's very clear for the urban dweller that the benefits of living in a city are much higher than the costs. Working on hot potatoes that are related to urban safety, traffic congestion, air pollution, housing affordability, connectivity, transport, nature and green amenities, but also leisure, culture, because those are essential services, contrary to what we heard during the pandemic, to make the city more attractive so that people can thrive and live there because they have chosen to than because they uh, have no choice. The second recommendation to bring trust back in the city, I think, is also to acknowledge that a lot of the radical transformation that are needed to transition to more sustainable pathways in urban but also in rural settings should be a shared responsibility between the public authorities. There's a clear need for public policies that are ambitious, robust, time-bound, accountable, etc., but also individual behavioral change. The city will only change if we change the way we live in the city. And so how you make that transition between the stick and the carrot that you as a mayor can put out there to an individual conviction that there are things you can do at your scale, household, neighborhood, etc., that can radically improve your quality of life is through dialogue. It's really the dialogue, the close proximity, the conversation, the right incentives that can help, let's say, unpack these individual levels of actions that are needed in cities. And I'll give you one example. For example, I think that one of the missed opportunities of this crisis that we still have to think of, and that many mayors are now looking at, is how we can change drastically our relationship to time in cities. This idea that maybe with the digital revolution and teleworking revolution, we are not all obliged any longer to do the same thing at the same time, at the same place, and that maybe we can synchronize, desynchronize, resynchronize our social lives in a way that we minimize pressure on land, we minimize pressure on public services, and so on. Maybe we don't need to all pack in crowded transportation to get to the office at 9 a.m. or, you know, it's, and that new relationship to time, chrono-urbanism, is also a way to rethink our infrastructure. What is a school, a bar, something else at a given moment of the day can be something else at another moment of the day. But this requires readiness from individual, you know, urban dwellers to do things differently. And then there's a third and last block, which is really the, let's say, the transparency, the performance of public policy. And that goes to the data part, that goes to the disclosure, uh, the lessons from best practices, but the lessons from failure, which is also difficult. But I find always mayors way more humble. I was impressed by the mayor of Helsingborg, who was telling me recently, we have set up a prize to fail in our cities. We
Say that
are
again.
every
You
year
have set
giving
up.
a prize to fail.
Ah,
We are giving every year a prize, a reward to the biggest failure mistake ever that a public official has made, as long as he or she has learned and drawn lesson. Can you imagine the incentive this is setting? And I think so. really the data, the accountability, the transparency, and making this accessible and showing, to the urban dwellers that this is a long-term effort is something that can also generate this human benevolence and transparency and empathy that then builds the trust for not only one political mandate, but maybe two or three to make change happen. I think if we combine those three things, we set the ground and we bring, some of the trust back, uh, and rebuild a sort of new social contract or that can contain this geography of discontent that we've seen rise over the past years.